I'm always serving the song, and I'm not pushing him, because that's the other thing the producer would do. They would push the artist to like, oh, maybe we do a music video where you're wearing a bikini and you're rocking back and forth on a chain. Like I'm not pushing him to be inauthentic or disingenuous about who he is or what his songs mean.
Welcome to the Crazy Angels podcast with Pascal Dennis and David Logan. Hi, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Today we want to talk about a song called I Tell Lies to Tell the Truth.
All right, I'm going to reveal all my lies for this arrangement.
Please, yeah.
Again, it's not much to tell here. It's super simple drum parts and live bass. So this is not a lie. This is Julio playing live bass, and it's also Julio here on the guitars. So again, just so simple, but the song is simple, and so it doesn't need horns and strings. And so we did though feel that some nice Hammond organ, right? And then we did a little bit of Rhodes with the organ because it just felt right. And then we put it all together with Pascal's amazing vocal delivery. And with as far as like the voice is concerned, I do very, careful but standard treatments of the voice. So I use always the Eventide H3000. This is a beautiful, it actually was a piece of hardware originally. And any chance I get to show my studio, I will.
Yeah. You
can see it. It's right here. This is the original hardware unit. And this was, used on every Steely Dan record, every, basically from, the late 70s when it was the H910, it was called. It wasn't even the H3000 yet. But so from the very late 70s all the way to today, you will never hear a record that has a vocal that does not go through an H3000. And, that's Apple doing that, by the way, when you do the thumbs up. I think you can also, what else can we do? Can we have fun? Can we just have some fun for a minute? There we go. Woohoo!
Oh,
sorry, I had to, it's my sophomoric fun moment. There we go. All right. Anyway, so this is, very, very standard vocal production. So I do have, and what the H3000 does, by the way, is it takes his single voice, and which is mono. In other words, you would hear it directly in the center of your forehead if you had headphones on. And it simply widens it. It makes it a little bit wider. So it pushes it out of the center and a little bit more sort of out here-ish. You don't want it to be out here, but you do want to push it so it's not just a mono signal. And this device achieves all this. I mean, it looks very scary and technical, and it is. And back in the day, we only had this one little LCD screen. When they turned it into software, they at least gave us a beautiful system to do patching and all kinds of good stuff. But before, you had to do this by turning this little knob right here. And, you had a magnifying glass. It was pretty awful. But anyway, so... yeah, and then, the other thing I do to kind of, again, just widen and push the vocals out a bit, we can just solo the vocals here.
He was an epic storyteller.
There's a little bit of what's called plate reverb. And so this is where they would run a steel sheet and a transducer on either side and feed the vocal into the steel plate, which would reverberate. And you could control exactly how long you wanted the reverb time. And that would have like soft cushions and padding that would pad the plate so it would resonate less. So this is really old technology that has been brought back. Now, why has it been brought back? Because it sounds amazing. And no digital reproduction can sound as good. It comes very close, but if you really want that vintage old sound, you
Hmm.
have to use some of these vintage old devices. I mean, I bought my first H3000 in 1997, actually, and been in the rack ever since. So, could not afford one of these, the EMT 140. This is based on the EMT 140. And by the way, it would require like a room that's like 10 feet wide at least to, just to get it in the room. So but
Yeah.
now with software, this is where we love big tech, right? Because
Hmm.
with software, we can go back in time. Now, there is a little bit of digital reverb as well. This is another model of a very famous, the Lexicon 224. And so all of these combined, and you can see here, PDP room, this is Pascal Dennis project. So whenever you see PDP, it's like I have perfectly through 6 records come up with the absolute vocal sound for his voice, right? And then of course, I'm running it through like an SSL channel strip, and then other standard vocal production techniques like DS. So the S's are a little bit softer. And then this is where we love AI in
Hmm.
music. We have the debreather, and it just looks for anytime he breathes, it just uses AI to get rid of it. The thing is, I used to do it by hand. I would sit there by hand,
Yeah.
chop, 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 and I chop every single one out because, it can, I mean, it can enhance some
Yeah.
performances,
Yeah.
but for the most part, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there you go.
So
That's the vocal chain for anybody who's interested in the sort of
Awesome.
vocal
Yeah.
production techniques.
if I could just comment, this is magic, folks, and my good luck and our good luck as a band is to have a magician in the team. So the studio
Thank
you
you.
just saw is like a
Stop.
magician's cave or
Stop
something
it.
like that. And I've
S-
been lucky enough to watch the maestro in person, and actually we've had wonderful meals in Rome, right next to the studio with David's partner Valentina and my dear wife Pamela. So it's a magic thing, and um, it allows me to tell lies to tell the truth. So
Yeah.
grazie mille,
Hey, man,
maestro.
it's a great pleasure. And then we use all these boxes and devices and buttons to further extenuate the lie that we're
Yeah.
telling. But it's all a lie. It
So
is.
we want to dig into that idea. So art versus artifice. So artifice is using technique, using magic, etc., to sell something, a product, a service, a feeling. And if the product, service, or feeling is an honorable and helpful and humane one, artifice is great. So if you're selling, a face cream or diapers or a useful app or some other useful product, more power to you. We don't look down on
Sure.
that. That's an honorable thing to do. I mentioned diapers. Anyone who's had children knows that they're a wonderful thing because they reduce misery in the child and free up the parents so they can be better parents. So yeah, we don't look down on
Sure.
artifice. Some
Never.
artifice, so is used to sell destructive things, and we're not on with that. So destructive apps or addictive substances like tobacco or toxic social media. So that said,
For sure.
we're just trying to do something a little different. We're trying to use art and technique and magic to tell the truth. And so in this case, in this song, there's a meeting between the narrator, me, and his hero. So as I said, the hero could be Louis Armstrong or Duke Ellington or the writers Charles Bukowski or Philip Roth or Mordecai Richler, people that I revere, or Jackie Robinson, the great baseball player. I didn't actually meet these people, but I imagine meeting them. And what would
Hmm.
we talk about? That's what the narration of the song is about. So, what truth am I trying to illuminate, and are we trying to illuminate in our albums and our songs? Well, for me, here I just wrote some of them down. One truth is that life is comic and it's tragic at the same time. And there is a fundamental absurdity in the sense that whatever decision you make, there's another path that remains unwalked, which is tragic and funny. So, you can marry this woman or not marry this woman. if you don't marry her, you take another path. Well, there's a life that's unlived. So maybe you would have had 4 children with her and had a wonderful life and lived to a ripe old age together, but you'll never know. So that's sad and tragic, but it's also funny. Say, oh, come on, buddy, get over it. Come on, get on with it. What's the matter with you? You crazy?
Sure.
Another truth is that life has underlying rhythms. And for me, the classical Chinese poetry and Taoism expresses it beautifully. So the idea of blazing into life, in other words, spring, blazing into life from nothingness, and then blazing out of life into nothingness. That's the rhythms of life, and that's the truth of life. And we have to develop a rapport with those rhythms, and that's an underlying theme in all my all my songs. Another truth is the truth of my family and my grandfather, Pascal Lee with an I, who came to America 104 years ago and suffered the trauma of immigration and loneliness and poverty, and at the time, a lot of intolerance and racism. And 3 generations, 4 generations later, this is a rhythm, it's a story, it's an opera, and I want to be able to tell it. So those are the kind of truths that I'm trying to tell through these lies.
Yeah.
So we tell
The other,
lies, hopefully we tell the truth.
sure. If I can just
Please,
interject for a second, and then
please.
we're going to have Levi's Corner, by the way. So
All
get
right.
Yes.
ready.
Have some questions, yeah.
The only like thing I was sort of wanted to add to this is how a director and a producer see a film, right? So a director sees it as a work of art, and the director's job is to fulfill the vision that they have, right? And with artistic merit, and make the most beautiful film that they can make. But the producer of the film, their job is to try and sell as many movie tickets, right? So they want, so there's always a fight for who gets final cut, right? Is it the production company or is it the director? And so with Pascal and I, somewhere along the lines, this idea of truth changing, the truth of what a record producer does changed also along. So originally the record producer did nothing in the studio. Literally, it was just a liaison that would communicate with the artists, because artists are fragile, and then they would talk to the record label. So the artist didn't have the trauma of dealing with the business side. And then eventually it kind of switched, and then producing became creative, and producers started getting big names for themselves, like David Foster and Jay-Z even as a producer, like there's just so many of them. And then you sort of always see them in the studio, like, and, like they're mixing everything, and, that's what it became. So, but with Pascal, I'm always serving the song, and I'm not pushing him, because that's the other thing the producer would do. They would push the artist to like, oh, maybe we do a music video where you're wearing a bikini and you're rocking back and forth on a chain. Like I'm not pushing him to be inauthentic or disingenuous about who he is or what his songs mean.
But you are coaching.
Is,
you are coaching, though.
only when I see it as being necessary, because sometimes he'll write a song that's almost perfect, and then I might make a suggestion to him. But again, as a producer, I only will do, and there's a lot of trust between us, so I will only do what I think will put the song in the best possible light. And I don't push him like, hey man, let's do a techno remix and put out a hip hop single, and you'll get a big thick gold chain and be like, yo, this is my new song. Like I'm not, I'm not pushing. Well, but this is, I think this is important, because this pushes the idea that our project is rooted in truth. Because we're not, we want to spread this message and have people listen to what we believe is good music. And so, we're promoting it, and, we talk about it, we tell people about it, but we're not just out there to get likes. And we're not just out, of course we care about the subscribers. We want to be successful in what we do and hopefully have people listen, but that's not the primary goal, right? And so I'm not saying to Pascal, well, if you, instead of the A minor 7, you went to a minor major flat 9, we're going to sell more records, Pascal, so you better put that chord in your song. Like, that's not the relationship.